So we can go to John 6, and we can go to Jesus and the disciples. It certainly looks like Matthew stood up and put down his accounting ledger and followed after Jesus. And you did not choose me. I chose you. It's very clear. Augustine, if you want a nice place to read in Augustine, it's actually at the end of the City of God. Augustine says, let's think about this. Freedom of the will is really not about choice. It's about being. So who is the God, or who is the being? I just gave the answer. Who is the being with the most freedom? And it's God. But God can't be not God. And then he says, when do you have the most freedom? And the answer is, when we're in heaven. But in heaven, we can't choose to sin. So freedom is more about being than it is about choice. And so a sinner has freedom, but they're free to be a sinner. And they can't choose God. And so that will is bound. They are not able not to sin, as Augustine says. And so we put that positively, and they're bound to sin. And it takes a work of God alone, monergism, here's the word we use, a work of God alone to regenerate. So regeneration precedes faith, to regenerate a dead soul, a dead person. And then on top of that, the faith that dead person professes is a gift. So we need to see that, but there's something about being Americans, we like choice. In fact, I remember seeing an old Billy Sunday gospel tract, and it was a voting ballot, and it had for and against, and this is about you. And so God is one column, and there's a check mark in the for. So God has voted for you. And then it has the devil, and there's a check mark in the against column. So Satan has voted against you. But guess who gets to cast the deciding vote? You do. So the final column is you and a question mark. Are you going to choose God or not choose God? Well, either Jesus' work on the cross is finished or it's not. And I think those are some of the issues that we need to think about as we perennially bump into this freedom of the will question. I think we can think better about it, and I think we have some biblical texts that can help us do that. As I mentioned, John 6, I think being Exhibit A, among Romans 9 to 11 as well, etc.
On the other hand, and I agree obviously with everything you said, Augustine early in his career wrote a little treatise on the freedom of the will. And in that, what he's really arguing is human beings have a will, and they make choices. And I think psychologically, it's important for us to recognize that reality so people feel free to choose. But I think he goes, if I remember rightly, which I may not, he goes on then to explain how one freely exercises one's will in accordance with one's nature. So the will is not self-determining. It acts, it makes choices following its nature. And as long as our nature is dead in trespasses and sin, all of our willing is going to be following that nature. So we don't want to act, Calvinists are sometimes accused of teaching that human beings are just automatons or stocks and blocks, as they said in the Canons of Dort. That's not true. We have wills. We make choices. We're responsible for the will and the choices we make, but it flows out of our nature. Until our nature is renewed, we never will have real freedom.